Does not start with definition. The does not start with operator is used to check if a string does not begin with a specified substring. This operator is essential for validating input formats, categorizing data, and filtering lists based on prefixes. Similar to the starts with operator, it is case-sensitive, meaning that the comparison will take into account the exact casing of characters. Scenarios. Example 1. Product code validation. Scenario: in an inventory system, you want to ensure that all product codes do not start with the prefix def, which is reserved for defective items. The flow checks if the entered product code does not start with this prefix. Formula: if condition. Product code does not start with def. Step-by-step explanation. Input data. Retrieve the product code entered by the user. Condition. Check. The flow checks if the product code does not start with def-. Response. If the product code is prod-12345, the condition returns true. Approve the entry of the product code into the inventory system. If the product code is DEF-12345, the condition returns false. Display an error message indicating that product codes starting with DEF- are not allowed. Example 2. Username validation. Scenario: in a user registration system, you want to prevent users from choosing usernames that start with admin. The flow checks if the entered username does not start with this prefix. Formula: if condition. Username does not start with admin. Step-by-step explanation. Input data. Retrieve the username entered by the user during registration. Condition check. The flow checks if the username does not start with admin. Response: if the username is user123, the condition returns true. Allow the user to complete the registration process. If the username is admin user, the condition returns false. Display an error message indicating that usernames cannot start with admin. Example 3. URL filtering scenario. In a content management system, you want to ensure that all uploaded files do not have URLs, starting with http://malicious.com. The flow checks if the uploaded URL does not start with this specific prefix. Formula: if condition. Uploaded URL does not start with http://malicious.com. Step-by-step explanation. Input data. Retrieve the URL entered by the user for the uploaded content. Condition check. The flow checks if the uploaded URL does not start with http://malicious.com. Response: if the URL is http://safecontent.com/article, the condition returns true. Allow the content to be published. If the URL is http://malicious.com/hack, the condition returns false. Display an error message indicating that URLs from this domain are not allowed. Best practices for using does not start with understand case. Sensitivity. Remember that the does not start with operator is case sensitive. Ensure that you are aware of the exact casing when specifying the prefix to check against. Input. Validation. Check that the input string is not null or empty before applying this operator to avoid runtime errors. Implement additional conditions to handle invalid inputs. Use clear prefixes. Define the prefixes you are checking against clearly. This helps ensure users understand the rules for acceptable input formats. Thorough testing. Test the condition with a variety of inputs, including boundary values. Example: strings that start with the specified prefix, strings that do not, and case variations, to confirm that the logic behaves as expected. Document logic and rules. Document the rationale for using the does not start with operator in your flows. Clear documentation helps future users, or yourself, understand the purpose of the logic and how it is implemented. Conclusion. The does not start with operator is a valuable tool in Power Automate for implementing conditional logic based on string prefixes. By understanding its functionality and applying best practices, you can create effective automation processes that dynamically respond to specific input criteria. The examples provided illustrate common scenarios where this operator can be effectively utilized, highlighting its importance in various applications.